Hi everybody. Today I'll be talking about the video game industry here in Spain. Let's begin with a brief introduction. The gaming industry in Spain generates over 1.4 billion US dollars, putting it ninth on the list of the biggest gaming markets, chief of which is led by China. However, in the video game space, most of this market is still dominated by foreign companies. For example, according to the AEVI graphic as shown on the right-hand side of your screen, or above my head, out of the 10 best-selling games in Spain in December 2021, every single one is owned by a foreign company. These top players include Electronic Arts, an American company, Rockstar Games, a US company, Nintendo, a Japanese company, and Ubisoft, a French company, to name a few. The few games that Spanish developers have made for the mainstream market that have made it to widespread popularity in recent years were always part of a larger, non-Spanish gaming studio's release. A good example here is the Asphalt series, part of the French Gameloft, who have studios in Barcelona. Thus, for this analysis, we will be comparing and contrasting the European market, as the market is much more comparable to other large gaming markets valued at $32 billion in FY 2020. So, the top game developers in the EU by video game downloads are American and Japanese companies. These biggest companies include Electronic Arts, Activision, Nintendo, and Ubisoft. So, what are some of the key differentiators between them? Let's start with Electronic Arts. With over 5.54 billion US dollars in revenue in 2020, Electronic Arts is one of the biggest game publishers in Europe, if not worldwide. Based in Redwood City, California, it is responsible for some of Europe's most popular games, such as the FIFA series, the Sim series, Madden, and Battlefield. Through sales of video games and live services, it has shown explosive growth from in-game spending. However, unlike Nintendo, it does not make its own hardware. Thus, it depends on hardware made by other companies, such as Microsoft's Xbox or Sony's PS6, or a user's PC in order to run. It is also heavily involved in the mobile gaming market and has made some of its titles available on iOS and Android. Activision and Blizzard. Like EA, Activision Blizzard is an American company operating worldwide and is larger than EA in terms of total revenue. However, in addition to having the popular Call of Duty franchise, it differentiates itself from EA from having a signature mobile game, the Candy Crush Saga, which, for a period of time, was the #1 app on the App Store in the US, Europe, and Asia. Ubisoft. Unlike its American competitors, EA and Activision, Ubisoft is not American. It is a French video game company with development studios around the world. Its video game franchises include the popular Assassin's Creed, For Honor, Just Dance, Prince of Persia, and Far Cry, just to name a few. With a phalanx of brands across the spectrum, it has a variety of games across its main brands and subsidiaries. It also develops its own game engine, the Dunia engine, which helps render games. Of course, the fifth one is Nintendo. Out of the four major game developers in the European market, Nintendo stands out for two reasons. It is not only the only Japanese or Asian game developer, it is the only game developer on this list to have vertical integration. For example, it develops its own games in-house, such as the Mario Kart franchise and the Super Smash Bros. And other popular titles, both on console and mobile, for example, Pokemon Go. It also develops its own gaming engines, as well as hardware through the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo DS, etc., to run them on, resulting in vertical integration, which no other Western company does. This results in Nintendo having more than double the annual revenue of their nearest competitor, Activision. So, who have I chosen for the most innovative company? Nintendo. In the oversaturated video game market, especially in Spain, where Nintendo truly shines. In the list published by AEVI, more than 6 of the 20 most popular video games in Spain are created by Nintendo, cementing its popularity within the Spanish market. In addition to having 6 of the 20 most popular video games, Nintendo is also the market leader when it comes to video game consoles sold in Spain, something no other video game developer in Spain can claim, or even in the world, as none are as vertically integrated as Nintendo. With over 2 million Nintendo Switch consoles sold in Spain since it was introduced in 2017, it has been the best-selling video game platform in Spain since 2019. Nintendo is evidently the market leader in this front because it has been the most innovative. Unlike other competitors who are not vertically integrated and do not control the arguably most important part of the player's experience, the hardware, then Nintendo not only creates good video games, it creates good hardware too. In the extremely cutthroat video game market, the Switch sets Nintendo apart from competitors as it can be played on the go as well as home with a Switch dock at a relatively inexpensive price point, €300, backed up by a strong library of in-house games. In addition, Nintendo is very geographically diversified. European operations are separate from Asian operations, which are separate from American operations. Thus, unlike its competitors, it can control all parts of the gaming experience for much less money than its competitors and give its users a better experience, tailored to the specific market. So, let's begin with Nintendo's SWOT analysis. So, its strengths. One of its strengths is its extensive distribution network, especially here in Spain. Nintendo Switches are available in most stores, such as El Corte Inglés, FNAC, as well as online at Amazon, making them extremely accessible. Number 2, broad variety of games. From action to adventure, puzzles, strategy games, simulation, role-playing, races, sports, and educational, Nintendo has an extremely large content library that can satisfy the needs of all players, as evidenced by their market share. Number 3, effective segmentation. Geographical diversification allows each regional market to operate as an independent entity, which reduces risks. Nintendo operates as 3 entities from Kyoto, Frankfurt, and Richmond, Virginia, and is thus able to tailor sales, marketing, and other strategies to specific markets. Number 4 is competitive pricing. Nintendo made the Switch relatively cheap compared to other similar gaming systems, as well as offers cheap yearly game subscription. Number 5, for the Nintendo Switch, the company positioned it as freedom for gamers by repeating the message, play great content anywhere, anytime, with anyone. They also used aggressive and viral marketing videos, as well as active social media posts and tweets to spread the message to the intended users. So, what are some of its weaknesses? Of course, it's the over-dependence on Switch. Currently, over 85% of Nintendo's annual revenue comes from the Switch console, marking a single port of failure for the company. If a competitor manages to come out with an alternative, Nintendo will have significant issues. Number 2, of course, is the chip shortage. With the global chip shortage, as well as Nintendo's over-dependence on Switch for the bulk of its process, it will have issues and continued issues if the chip shortage continues and it does not figure out its supply chain quickly. Number 3, of course, is brand damage. The failure of the Wii U eroded trust and Nintendo's reputation, and another botched product launch will doom the company. So, what are some opportunities? 1. Nintendo must diversify. Co-developed with Niantic, Nintendo has already one very popular game, and that is Pokemon Go. It can further tap into the market by porting its popular games on Switch to iOS and Android, diversifying platforms and offering its vast catalog to the billions of iPhone and Android users for a fee. It may also want to offer gaming or games as a service, as a SaaS, maybe some more partnerships with local companies, sponsorship deals, etc. Maybe it can even steal FIFA's market share with the esports. And of course, let's address the threats. Number 1 threat is competition. If Nintendo does not keep up its stellar offerings of both games and consoles, it will be eaten up by the competition. Number 2, piracy. Even though Nintendo is somewhat shielded from this as they have their own physical products, piracy is still a danger to any video game developer. Number 3, of course, is mobile gaming. Mobile phones are getting more powerful every year, and less people are willing to spend money on dedicated gaming consoles. Of course, the last one, which is not addressed, but should be addressed, is the tech giants. If Google, Amazon, and Apple were to quickly decide to become a gaming studio, Nintendo's market share could quickly collapse. So, let's do a competitor analysis. This competitor analysis is on the scale of software development only and hardware development only, as well as includes the bundle price. For software-only companies, a value of an Xbox or other comparative console or device is added. For console companies, Xbox Live or PSN Game Pass is added to the price. This graph shows that the Nintendo's other competitors, such as Activision, have a high bundle price, as their games must be played on expensive hardware such as Xbox and PlayStation. Otherwise, of course, they cannot be played. Thus, as we can see here, only Nintendo has the capabilities for a minimal bundle price to fully experience the game with good hardware at a low price. In order for Nintendo to succeed, it should play to its strengths. For example, it is very important that Nintendo continue to make the Switch a success, as it is paramount for the company's survival. It must come out with new and innovative products to stay ahead of the game, as well as the mobile gaming revolution. It must also find ways around the global chip shortage to keep up with demand, as well as diversify its sources of income, such as recurring subscriptions, or porting its services and devices to mobile, creating another source of income. In addition, it should expand into emerging markets. Otherwise, in this very competitive market, Nintendo could easily be outmatched by the competition, who are no doubt eyeing its lead over the market. That concludes the presentation. Please email me if you have any questions at dyen@nyu.edu. Thank you.